To schedule a free estimate and soften up with Bryant. At Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing, we do whatever it takes.
Feeling off lately? Struggling with your mental well-being can make everyday life harder, and it can also increase the risk of substance use. Early support can make a big difference. Visit myhealthymind.crediblemmind.com and take the free mental health check-in assessment. In just a few minutes, you'll get non-judgmental feedback, local resources, and next steps to help you feel more in control and supported. This message is funded in part by the CDC OD2A grant.
Your possibilities are endless at Doane University. Rooted in liberal arts, you can choose from undergraduate and graduate programs, all delivering real-world experience. At Doane University, we take a personal approach to education, giving you the guidance you need to own your future. It's not just our long history of innovative learning, it's the feeling of being surrounded by possibilities that makes us different. Now is your time. Apply today at doane.edu/apply.
They're too young to vape.
E-cigarettes are the most used tobacco products among youth.
They know vaping is dangerous, don't they?
The majority of youth who vape use flavored products, the kind designed to seem harmless.
If they were vaping, I'd be able to tell.
Many vapes are small, discreet, and resemble everyday items. Don't avoid the conversation. Talk to your kids about vaping. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired in association with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and the station.
MWR is dedicated to building attractive, affordable steel buildings that exceed your expectations. From commercial to residential to agriculture storage, steel buildings are cost-effective, attractive, and versatile. Plus, they're a lasting investment and an ideal choice. MWR uses Sentinel Building Systems out of Albion and can service you all over the state and region. If you have interest in a steel building, post-frame building, or fencing, give MWR a call today at 402-980-5273 or go to mwrbuildingandfence.com.
They're too young to vape.
E-cigarettes are the most used tobacco products among youth.
They know vaping is dangerous, don't they?
The majority of youth who vape use flavored products, the kind designed to seem harmless.
If they were vaping, I'd be able to tell.
Many vapes are small, discreet, and resemble everyday items. Don't avoid the conversation. Talk to your kids about vaping. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired in association with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and the station.
MHC isn't a new company, just a new name. Moe's Moving is now Moe's Home and Commercial. Whether moving across town or across the state, MHC Moving has you covered, specializing in home, apartment, assisted, and independent living moves. MHC can handle your commercial moves as well. MHC Moving has zero hidden fees. You'll never pay for same-day booking or be charged for stairs, heavy items, or elevator fees. Rates are the same Monday through Saturday, and you will never pay a truck or fuel surcharge. And they offer payment plans through PayPal. Call MHC Moving today at 402-853-7167 or go to mhcmoving.com.
Ready to score big with your projects? Look no further than Edward Stone, the MVP of natural stone for over 2 decades. Edward Stone is cranking out over 30,000 square feet every week and offers a winning lineup of over 70 quality natural veneer stone selections. Their unbeatable variety and experienced team will ensure your project is a success, whether it's a home renovation or a commercial build. And hey, they're not just about stone. They've got an all-star lineup of fireplaces, cast stone, brick, and much more. Swing by one of their locations in Lincoln or Omaha today and experience the Edward Stone difference, your reliable choice for over 20 years.
Live from the 93.7 The Ticket studios in the heart of Lincoln, America, this is Inside the Huddle with Nebraska Football Hall of Famer Jay Foreman.
Fires a pass, and it's intercepted by the Huskers at the 25, Jay Foreman. And Foreman takes it down to the 19-yard line of Oklahoma. Another big play by the Blackshirts.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging.
All right, welcome back in. Happy Sunday. Harrison Arn still on the ones and twos. Just wrapped up with What's Next 24. I had a guest, voice of Husker Volleyball, John Baylor, as those guys got a game at 1 o'clock today. If you guys want to go back and listen to that, 7 to 8 this morning. But this is Inside the Huddle. We got the host, as always, Jay Foreman, on the Allo VIP line, where they understand the importance of exceptional service with a local heart. Jay Foreman, how's it going on this Sunday morning?
It's going pretty good. I mean, it's a good Sunday morning. All the people have cleared out of Lincoln or asleep. partied out, but more importantly, it's Victory Sunday. So you're putting back-to-back W's in the in the win column, and so it's onward and upward, and then it's a process that that the not only the team and the administration is going through. The fans have got to go through it as well. You want to take them as they come, and obviously celebrate the victories that that you can, and then obviously learn at the same time. So it's a unique process that it seems like the whole Husker Nation is going through. You got to have a really good sense of reality, but then also not just kind of gloss over something that you hadn't been able to do on a consistent basis, throughout the last 10, 15 years.
Where's the fan base meter at? What is your assessment after you did post game last night? Where did it feel like where all the fans are at after seeing this game? And felt like a 60-40 split after Cincinnati. Some people happy, some people disappointed. This game felt like everyone's happy. What was kind of the main theme yesterday through your post game show?
Well, I think they were happy. I think they were excited that Nebraska was able to come and turn on and really pour on the gas.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw the second and third team guys come in and get theirs. And so, it was just constant, when you're, ringing the scoreboard like that, I think the fans overall were happy. And I think they, saw some things that maybe that it was better than the week before. And obviously, they're really good. You had some callers and texters that they felt like, they did some good things, but also the reality of who they played. So I think overall was pretty good, considering, in years past, Nebraska might have struggled with, a little bit better Akron team. When I think Terry Bowden was the coach, they were pretty hard out, and Nebraska would probably have to go to the well
mm-hmm.
to finish that game off. But I think overall the fans were, pretty excited. They hadn't been in that position before, and got over the hump of Cincinnati, a little bit of a downtime in your first home game, night game, light show. Kind of checked all the boxes of what you want for your first Saturday in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yeah, and then Jay Foreman, I'm not sure where you want to start with the game here. There was stats-wise, I think it's the most stats I've maybe seen since being alive watching Husker football. Us putting up this many points unanswered. What was more impressive for you, the offense or the defense getting a shutout?
Well, I'll just say the defense, because overall, I think you need your first, second, third units to perform well. I think what kind of doesn't get talked about enough is that you're facing an Akron team that got shut out last week, right? And so, they're going to compete until the end because they want to score and had some opportunities. They missed the field goal, got one blocked, numerous turnovers and so forth and so on. And so, the pride thing of pitching a shutout is something that, hopefully was, really a point of emphasis through the whole defense unit. So, I'm not taking anything away from the offense, but I think for the defense to, shut out, Akron was really, really a step in the right direction, considering, what they were up against. Now, it wasn't an offensive juggernaut by any means. But, to be able to do that was actually, a big feat for them, confidence booster, to build some depth. You saw a lot of young guys that, that played, and obviously you saw, some freshmen. You saw, Dawson Merritt, you saw Willis McGahee, the fourth, who's not a freshman, but, you saw him make a big play. You saw McCullough make some plays. D-line, you had to just everybody, it's kind of like one of those things like when we used to play Pacific or somebody like that, or even Akron, back in the day that, you're able to empty the benches, but everybody was able to go in there and play well. And so that lets you know that the attention was, the detail was there from top to bottom. And then the execution was, obviously, ideal as well. And now, you got to take it with a grain of salt, but I think that was really good to see everybody, go out there and play. And look, the offense performed well. TJ Lateef did good. Mosley did good. You saw everybody really was able to get out there and do what they were supposed to do. I think really, Harrison, back to your first question, and then obviously to answer this one, it kind of goes in hand in hand. They went out there and they did what they were supposed to do. So it's actually a sign of maturity, as a program or as football players individually.
Yeah, when you look across the Big Ten, that's kind of the company that you want to be in. Looking at a lot of the scores throughout the Big Ten, Minnesota, Oregon, Ohio State, a lot of shout-outs, a lot of big upsets where the Big Ten was just taking care of business. I will say this for Nebraska, though. You were mentioning just about all the backups as well. Dylan Raiola leaves the game with the quarterback with the worst completion percentage, and it was a pretty good one at that. He was 24 for 31, but to your point, shows that TJ Lateef, Gramstead, even though they, maybe Gramstead didn't have a ton of throws out there, those guys both performed really well as well. And then it was good to see, my biggest concern, and maybe that's not true, I could talk about defensive line as well, was I just wanted to see Nelson and Mosey. Not that I didn't think those guys could do it. I just hadn't seen it other than the coaches talking highly about them in practice and then walking into Cincinnati and just not seeing a whole lot of them. Emmett Johnson gets pretty much all of the carries in that one. Mosey and Nelson just get just a few. But those guys looked great in this Akron game. And again, we can keep saying over and over again, yes, we understand it's the Akron Zips, but I mean, that's what you're supposed to do to those teams, is you're supposed to dominate in that fashion. And Mosey and Nelson definitely had a little bit of a resurgence.
Yeah, I mean, you want to see the guys that you heard about in camp, day in and day out. And, it was a little bit of tough sledding last week against Cincinnati. You sometimes you can kind of build up this like Paul Bunyan mentality when you start to hear about, new incoming freshmen, right? Mekhi Nelson and Mosey, and then with Mims and stuff like that. Then you get out there and you expect Emmitt Smith and Jerry Rice type of production, and everybody struggles in their first game. I did it, my first game at Nebraska. These guys, did it as well, and the game kind of was a little bit too fast for them. And then I think that week later, or that week of practice, allowed them to make some improvement. And then obviously the holes were there, and it was obviously easy pickings with Akron. So it was good for them to get, going, and get some confidence, because you're going to need them, down the season. And it's not necessarily if anybody's like banged up or not. It's just that you need different looks. You need to be able to put the stress on the defense to, adjust personnel. And I think you could do something, where you have Emmett or Mekhi Nelson in there, and then you bring Mosey in there, and you can create some matchup problems along with the other guys, and give, the offensive play callers some freedom to pick up, some sneaky first downs and extend drives. You could do it maybe, if you're trying to close out a game. It all kind of goes back to maybe a game like this, and maybe next week, where they can build the confidence that they can go out there and play in a big stage. I think one thing to understand, that these kids are going out there and playing, right? They're playing against other guys that they're trying to bite back as far as, Division I football. It's another thing to play out there at night, where they got to think about it all day. And then you got the night show, and then 90,000 people. And then, the first kind of, what used to be the tunnel walk, Husker walk, or whatever they do now. They're taking it all in. And, the last time they really saw it, as far as the true freshmen, is like maybe when they were on recruiting trips. Now they lived it themselves. When you're playing for, you're playing for keeps.
Yeah. And, the next thing I got on this, with this game here, I do want to dial on a little bit on Dylan Raiola, with about 10 minutes left. He just looked really sharp. He's a little bit different. I mean, you can see the difference between TJ Lateef and Dylan Raiola. Not that this one's better than the other, but just in the styles they play. Dylan Raiola, just watching that game and how patient he is, he's going to take the pass. That one touchdown he had to Luke Lindenmeyer, he could have cut up and maybe run for about 10 yards to get the first down and keep the chains moving, but he just keeps running lateral, makes the great throw to Lindenmeyer. Lindenmeyer gets it in for the touchdown. What'd you see out of Dylan Raiola, and just kind of more of his patience and really throwing the ball up the rails throughout that game, threading it through some defenders?
Well, I think that, you just saw the more of the same. I think, we mentioned on the Jay Foreman postgame show last night that, if you take the Cincinnati game and the beginning of this game, it's 20 straight completions. And so it's on time, on target. That means, Dylan's executing the offense. He's getting good offensive, blocking from the linemen. More importantly, you got guys out there you can play pitch and catch with, and, look, you could be wide open, have a lack of concentration. For me, like say I'm a receiver and I drop, I think that's also, a step where Nebraska, has gotten significantly better. If you think back to like when Frost was here, being able to, playing pitch and catch, and it takes a lot of time, in the off season to be able to, create that, consistency and continuity with, a plethora of receivers. But as far as some of the passes he threw, I think Akron struggled with whether they wanted to play man or zone. And, Dylan does a really good job of operating against, zone and we're just really, taking what the defense gives them. And I think the first pass up the seam to Lindenmeyer, where he kind of just, floated it right over the linebackers, reach and hand and right into a position where Lindenmeyer could catch it and get a couple yards after the catch or run after the catch. And I think the reason why that was such a good pass is because Lindenmeyer did a really good job of, defensively we used to call it hugging the hash. That means the hash is in there. And so the more that you get towards the middle of the hash, towards the opposite hash, you expose yourself to, if you fumble the ball, it'll be an interception or a big hit. And then next thing you don't know what comes after that. But it was a really good play there. And I think that kind of opened up into kind of like the aha moment. And then they were able to get on track and, everybody get going. Obviously, he has a pretty good connection right now with Hunter. I think that's a byproduct of teams rolling their coverage to Dane Key. And so Dane Key has to, be patient because it's a sign of respect where teams are, trying to take you away as the number one option or the perceived number one option. And so you see guys like Emmett, getting busy in the passing game. Obviously, Lindenmeyer, back-to-back weeks having, pretty good games and obviously been able to get in the end zone. And then obviously Hunter, really was, the explosive player. And then you mix in the other guys, Heinrich Harburg was able to get a catch and everybody else was able to do their thing. And so, that's one thing that's real is the different body types, the depth that they've been able to kind of recruit through the transfer portal, obviously through regular recruiting and the development. And they do have some, this year, I'm telling you this right now, they do have more options than they've had in the past.
Yeah. And, with the options that they do have, they've been doing a phenomenal job catching the ball. I mean, it's, with the quarterback, sometimes you'll see it where a guy, especially if you get to some of the schools that just don't have as much talent-wise at the wide receiver position, where they might have some pretty rough completion percentages, but, the receiver is going to make up a lot of that for you. That first quarter alone, I think there was 3 one-handed snags from the tight end room to the wide receiver room. And then throughout the game, there was obviously, I can't remember who that was heading out to that corner of the end zone, and Dylan Raiola running out to the right throws an absolute dot. Great catch, great throw. Both were exactly where they needed to be. But it was good to see the receivers as well. And, throw the tight ends in there. Also have a really good showing because that's the thing where, good hands are going to show up whether you're playing Akron or Ohio State. And those guys throughout the entire game, they were doing a lot with what Dylan Raiola was giving them. And even if it was a little bit overthrown, those guys were making an effort, laying all out for it, and just, again, making a ton of athletic grabs throughout the entire game.
Yeah, I mean, you want to be able to do that. Obviously you want to be able to expose and take advantage of Akron just because you look at, the day and age of, trying to, keep the score at a reasonable, margin is over. And the reason why I say that is because with the 4-game redshirt rule, NIL, and being able to try to, keep your roster, this is part of re-recruiting your roster. And that's the young guys going out there and making plays. And then it's a byproduct of the older players and the depth of receivers making athletic plays, like you just mentioned, where it doesn't have to be a perfect pass. And the reason why that's important is because that's going to allow guys, and when they come to practice and you're pushing them to do more than just the basics, you can really turn on the tape and obviously look at it Akron and say, look, this is what we did. This is what we should do. This is how we can actually get better. So you have the positive feedback of going out there and putting putting what you did in practice on, out and live on display. But then also you're able to take them back and try to perfect it in an environment that these kids probably work a little bit better in, and that's probably obviously off of positive victory.
What's it look like in the locker room after games like this, Jay? Like, what are you guys critiquing and trying to get better at? When you have a game that's this dominant, did anything stick out yourself when you were watching where even though the score is great, the yards, all the stats look great, was there anything that you saw yourself that, we maybe still need some work on that you're expecting they may talk about in the locker room, or what it's been like in your experience in the past when you guys were having some dominant shutouts? How do you lock back in when you get into practice to make sure you guys still keep working hard?
Oh, it's more along the lines of, the more of the same. We did what we were supposed to do. It's like, congratulations, you graduated from high school with a, 3.6 GPA. You not only did above average, but you did what you're supposed to do. You celebrate it, then you move on, come the next day. And the reason why is because it's bigger and better things. You want to just, validate what you did yesterday, or in this case, yesterday or last night, and then you want to make sure it's not a hangover. The same way that you approach, like, say, like a loss, you want to not just dwell on it and let it go into, the next week or the next day in practice, the next 2 days in practice, and then you get in the game the next week and it's a hangover. It's the same thing as far as a victory. You want to be able to handle success. And that's probably one of the biggest things that, these kids these days are, programs, and everybody included in programs, have to do a really good job and make sure they have some self-accountability. Is handling success is because you can get kind of punch drunk off of the pats on the back and kind of overlook the details. So now you got to really get back and push the reset button. And the 24-hour rule really probably got dummied down to the 12-hour rule when we played teams like this, Harrison, because we wanted to be hyper-focused and be able to make sure that we didn't miss an opportunity or a chance to get better when we played a more game opponent.
Is it tough to, and not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but I'm not playing in the game, so I can look forward a little bit. Is it hard to go from, say, because we'll go from Zips to Houston Christian to Michigan, and we'll see what Michigan looks like, but they've looked impressive so far to start the season. Is it tough to go from a team that maybe doesn't have a lot of talent and then quick jump to a team like Michigan, who is going to have 5-star talent, 4-star talent across the field there? Is that like kind of a tough adjustment to make? Maybe, or does it just take a few reps and then you're kind of right back into it?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a tough adjustment, but you're going to be ready. I mean, I think your practice habits, your preparation, you won't be caught by surprise. And look, you're not going to be able to play Michigan 12 games a year, so you got to go out there and execute. And that's why I always have talk about the faceless opponent. The standard of your work, your preparation, how you practice, and then obviously how you play. And obviously last night included, Houston Christian's got to get the business. Is then if you continue to have a standard of playing and operation and leading up to it, then when you play at Michigan, it's just like they're just in the way, and they're going to provide more of a resistance. And so you have to mentally prepare for a team like Michigan more than physical, but the physical part is going to be led by the mental. I know it's kind of a tongue twister, but the mental part will allow you to show up to practice and really dive into the details even harder and maybe with more intensity, in a Houston Christian week, because you don't want to show any letdown, and you have to kind of change your mindset. I want to say this before we go to break, is that you want to make sure that you put on actually your best tape against a Houston Christian, because you don't want Michigan, the players or the coaches, to be like, oh yeah, they didn't compete last week. So you want to show them that actually, you're coming out there and you're playing at the optimum. You want to put a little nugget in their brain of what what they could expect here moving forward in a couple weeks versus, oh, this is the Nebraska team. They looked a little sluggish. They got out of the block slow. They still were celebrating the Akron game, because you don't want any mental advantage on them coming down here to Lincoln, Nebraska here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, and when do you think you personally, when coaches, obviously they're not going to say they're looking ahead, but they got to be kind of looking at some of that Michigan stuff right now, right? Or even a little bit last week.
I mean, it's been both I've experienced both ways, where we kind of, would put a little bit in there, and that's more of a 2-a-days or fall camp type of mentality. When we, we're playing Washington and maybe we were playing like an Akron or a Pacific early, we kind of would throw in, a Washington period, kind of like introductory. But, I think right now is like, no matter who you play, whether it's Washington or Houston Christian, your execution has to be, at an all-time high anyways. And so as long as you're doing the right things, both in and out of practice and obviously on the games on Saturdays, the Michigan preparation will be, right on time. Now, anytime you can get a leg up on a team like Michigan, especially with a freshman quarterback, and that the playbook cannot be like, so, they don't have a senior quarterback, and they have, they're still trying to develop as well.
And no head coach.
I think that puts
they're in there.
Yeah, new head coach, and obviously, trying to they're trying to get their three pronged attack, offense, defense, and special teams together, led by the offense. It puts Nebraska in an advantageous position to be not only one step ahead or two steps ahead in their preparation. So, maybe this week, maybe like a period or two, but I think also you want to make sure that as you're trying to teach this team how to win, teach this team potentially how to be, the championship mentality. You never overlook an opponent. And so you just always kind of really want to keep them in the moment. And they do a lot of preparation. I'm sure they kind of did some pre-scouting, and they have a big enough staff that they've kind of looked at them a little bit and stuff like that. So, I think, that time will come, and they'll take it and handle it accordingly. So we're going to take a quick break. Inside the Huddle with Jay Foreman, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging, 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. Take care of all your imaging needs. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Casey Oddie, and I'm the Retail Banking Manager at your local Midwest Bank branch on 70th and Pioneers Boulevard. Banking may be my job, but supporting the community is what I care most about. Whether I'm showing up at local events, partnering with schools, or helping people reach financial milestones, I am proud to be a part of what makes Lincoln strong. Let's build something together. Stop by and say hi. Your community, your bank, Midwest Bank. Member FDIC.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals just like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait, apply now.
At Fairway Meat Market, you're family, and as part of the family, they want to save you money on your meat and groceries. Fairway has fresh cut meats, seafood, cheese, wine, and spirits, and a friendly staff that's always ready to help you find what you need. Stop by Fairway Meat Market today to plan your weekly meals in the Rockledge Square Shopping Center, just south of 84th and Van Dorn.
Rashawn Jackson here for Bauer Underground, who has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
Get rid of pesky critters once and for all with Bats to Rats. Their expert team is here to help you reclaim your home. No more sleepless nights caused by crawling critters or flapping wings. Bats to Rats ensures a safe environment for every family member. Check the website at batstoRats.com for amazing offers. And if you mention this ad, you'll receive $10 off your initial inspection cost. Call Bats to Rats today at 402-781-8691. That's 402-781-8691. Bats to Rats.
Are you looking to upgrade or improve the garage door on your home? This is Cameron Hall of Doors Plus. At Doors Plus, we guarantee to offer a wide selection of options from 5 leading garage door manufacturers as we deliver a free estimate, exact measurements, and rapid installation with a 3 to 5 week time frame. When you choose Doors Plus for your residential garage door needs, you'll work with our experienced technicians and be ensured that your new door seamlessly complements your home. Give us a call at 402-590-5800 or visit us online at doorsplusllc.com. Doors Plus, garage doors, and more.
Empire Netting and Fence delivers top quality netting and fence solutions. From major sports venues to backyard installs and everything in between, coast to coast. We take on tough jobs with grit, integrity, and a strong commitment to safety. Empire is growing, and we're hiring motivated people ready to grow with us. We build each other up, and we're building something big. Think you've got what it takes? Apply now at empire-fence.com. That's empire-fence.com.
Gaina Trucking is hiring CDL Class A and B drivers. Their strong team culture makes it not a job, but a career. Gaina Trucking offers health, vision, and dental insurance, 401k with company match, an employee assistance program, and other bonus programs. Build a better career today with great team culture at Gaina Trucking. Learn more and apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
M Suits Clothiers, Lincoln's favorite men's store. Family owned and operated, located 1 block south of 56th and Pine Lake Road. Go bold this summer and fall with endless possibilities. Stop in now for the best selection on sweaters, outerwear, suits, sport coats, dress pants, and dress shirts. M Suits Clothier's your menswear store.
Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services is here to help you protect things that are most important to you. Whether it's your home, your family, or your future, Jack Russell has the proven experience to get the job done while developing authentic relationships with you. Give Jack a call today at 402-421-9100. Again, that's 402-421-9100. Or visit one of his 2 locations in Lincoln or Seward and learn how you can excel in the complicated world of insurance. Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, a trusted and well-respected representative since 1999.
Back to Inside the Huddle, sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging. Here is your host, Jay Foreman.
What up, surprise from the dead, literally. Jay Foreman, Inside the Huddle, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging, 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. Obviously, recap of the Nebraska victory last night, 68-0 against Akron Zips. They probably, one thing I was thinking about Akron is like they knew when they got on the plane they were going to get their head beat in. Then you had to sit through a 4-hour game and take it on the chin. Then you could probably get back to Akron of all places. Probably about 2-3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
you had to get broke off.
Coach didn't really have your back at the podium either. It wasn't the best.
Moorhead?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
So
I mean,
I can understand it. Don't get me wrong.
I can.
But
Yeah. I mean, it's, really, you got to think there's a lot of effort that goes in it, time, sacrifice, and all the things that same things that, Nebraska has talked about. Same thing with Akron, right? Moorhead is known to be an offensive play caller. He's not going to sit there and be okay with Akron, dropping passes, not competing, defensively, just, allowing gaping holes. And, look, they got shut out last week against Wyoming at Wyoming. They've probably, after the game, they felt like they let that game go away. It was a 3-0 game. And then they had a unfortunate offensive penalty and took them out of field goal range, and they gave up a touchdown that next series. And so he wanted to see improvement. And he probably felt like he didn't, the things that you look at in those type of games. And this is probably like where, it'd be interesting to see what Mickey said after they played Ohio State, is that you want to see guys that are going to compete, because the only way that you will close the gap or get better, and when you're playing against better teams or, better players, is to go out there and compete. You can still do the right thing, and the other team somewhat is successful. And the reason why that is, if you're a significantly smaller team, but you play hard, like Northern Iowa last year against us, right? They weren't as big and physical as us, but they played extremely hard. That's how you were able to, maybe drag that game into the third or fourth quarter or whatever it was last year. They gained more out of that, right? They were able to see what type of players, what type of, staff they had, and what they could make improvements on, in moving forward. Whereas Akron, I wouldn't say they tapped out, but like they had at least 3 significant drop passes.
There was quite a few
on third down.
Finley's stats aren't as bad as he deserves.
Right. All games aren't created equal. There's some quarterbacks that could go out there and have really high completion percentage, and say you make it like, okay, so the USC game, their receiver, I think he's number 8. He had essentially Odell Beckham one-handed. It was actually more impressive. He had the guy, shielded off with his left hand, and he essentially rebounded it with one hand. Well, if they throw that pass 10 times, he catches it just that one. And, that goes into his completion percentage. Whereas Daniel, he's looking at it like his stats, he had probably 5 or 6 drops, legitimate drops.
Yeah, there's a lot. You can count them where they hit him in the hands. Straight up on the hand, no pressure.
And they were going ones where they would have extended drives, which would have took more time off the clock, which would have, stopped Nebraska from scoring so easily, would have probably gave their defense more time to make adjustments and so forth and so on. And so that's the difference of being at maybe in Akron and then Nebraska. That's the difference of being used to competing at a high level in front of 90,000 people and not, because that first game against Wyoming was probably about 10,000 people, maybe 12. And then you come 10X down here and the pressure in a night game. And so that's where you have a head coach like Joe Moorhead was pretty much saying they got their butt kicked up and down the field. He's probably embarrassed. He's probably frustrated. He's mad. So it's a really unique look into what you have to do to get your team back out there in practice because Harrison, sometimes when we used to play games like this, we would not even watch the tape. And that's how we had automatic reset because you never want guys to come in here and you're in that, vacation mode or, Disneyland mode or whatever you want, cupcake mode where like, man, look at us. We beat up on these guys. Let's just sit here and let's just devil. Let's just, like a pig in mud. That's what we used to call it. Don't be the pig, flopping around in it. And when it dries up, you're still living in it. And here comes Michigan, who's going to be more than angry coming into Lincoln, considering that they felt like they let Oklahoma off the hook because they got started too late against Oklahoma, starting to get going. And so, it's a kind of, the opposites on how you look at, each coach and program, how they have to move forward. It's a unique process. I mean,
well, especially in today's era. Like, I don't know what it looks like for the Zips, but in the era of NIL and all, we're kind of seeing it still balance out a little bit in terms of what this House versus the NCAA settlement is doing, and that NIL just feels like it's a lot more balanced. And some of these smaller programs, they're still a little bit at you get a good guy and he gets poached shortly after. It's just.
It's tough.
To keep a team like that good consistently is a really hard thing to do. Yeah, and a team like or build it up when at that level when it really hasn't been anything.
It isn't because they've had a lot of recent turnover though.
Yes,
because if they would have, Bowden was there and they were pretty formidable. Obviously he was a very established coach and he took that job kind of like his last hoorah. And then they had the coaching tenure of the last coach. And it was at the wrong time. I always say this: people don't understand. Well, I won't say they don't understand. Is that you don't? When you play NFL football, you see things, and what it's like. The result is not a byproduct of what you think it is. Like coaches leaving, coaches get fired. Why guys lose games? You know what I mean? Because as a fan, you just I just watch on Sunday, right? Or you see you just read and you just you'll see a coach get fired, during a bye week, and they'll be like, man, what happened, right? Well, you'll be like, okay, well, it's because the quarterback didn't play good or the receivers didn't play good. Well, that's not the reason why. And when you look at the difference between say like a James Madison and an Akron, probably the same level, an Old Dominion, right? So Old Dominion and James Madison, right here. You don't want to have them on the schedule when they come in
South Florida.
Yeah. Right. You don't want to have, and they're probably a little bit higher level because but those are the teams, right? You're like, oh yeah, we play like Florida Gators. They're like, okay, we play South Florida. That's a dub. We're starting off 2-0, right? We got Napier back. This is our year. We ended up, good. Whereas there's Akron, when you do the research, their last coach, it has, him being fired had nothing to do with wins and losses. It was everything off the field. Well, how does that affect on the field? Well, then they weren't able to get Moorhead until a little bit later in the process, right? And so then that affects recruiting, that affects retention, that affects the coaching staff and the staff that you get, and then that affects this product out here. So Joe Moorhead is punching trying to beat an opponent with the lights off, and so when he knocks somebody out, that's luck. So it's going to take him a little bit along. Now, you got to have the administration that's willing to support financially and then also go through those lean times, or they'll reset and you'll be right back into it. And that's how you spiral down, as we've seen, down the side of the hill. And, look at where, what's funny is Akron Zips, Florida Gators, two different programs, two different types of athletes. Both coaches are on the hot seat. So losing and being on the hot seat, how it looks, and it's a big on how the reason why it has to look a certain way is because everything is perception. It's not really the reality. That's why you'll see teams ring this scoreboard up, like you're playing bingo, red 68. That's what we're doing because you have to do that. It's all percent. And if you want a clear example of it, is Indiana, right? Everybody thought when I was here, when Cignetti took the job, you fired a good coach in Tom Allen and didn't give him any money. Yeah, you gave Cignetti like $4 million in NIL. He brought a bunch of kids from James Madison. What are you going to do in the Big Ten? They came out the gates, got their first victory. They won 77-10 or something. Validated it the next week. They're like, oh, this team is actually legit. So for Nebraska, you play Houston Christian, who by all purposes is probably maybe a step up better than Akron, but maybe even worse, step down. You got to beat their head in too.
That's kind of the expectation you set up for yourself, which is good.
Yeah, well, the fans have the expectation.
Sure.
You get there by the standard. The standard goes along with discipline. You know what I'm saying? Because they go hand in hand. One's more emotionally based, one's just work based. The more that you lean on this work base, you'll feed the emotional base, but you'll get more out of it from the standard.
That's a good way to look at it, because I think that's probably has been the number one problem at Nebraska, is just leaning too much into the emotional base.
Yeah,
which is it's a hard thing to do. You come here and it's like it's easy to get hyped up, and
there's only a show in town.
Only show.
You get it's 12 games a year. We win the off season. We beat Akron.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about what was on the text line. We're back, baby.
You hop on Twitter, you get 100 graphics of you every day.
Back. Yeah, and that's the social media thing, and it happens everywhere too.
Yeah, it's not a Nebraska.
Say like Alabama upsets Georgia. Oh man, that Florida State game was a learned lesson. We're back, and that's where they were last year, right?
Yeah, you're not wrong.
If you want an example of a team that's been obviously in the national championship and more established than Nebraska, it's Alabama. It's kind of the same scenario. Even though we have Creighton and we have Nebraska volleyball, Alabama really has. Well, they got other sports, but
it's Crimson Tide State, though.
Yeah, and they had the transition from the Saban to DeBoer. They're like, oh, the world's in. No, we got a good coach, and he is a good coach. He's a good dude too, a very good guy. Very not good. He's a great human. We're there, right? Started to slow out the blocks, upset Georgia. Ryan Williams has that, in the moment, legendary play. Now all of a sudden they think he's Jeremiah Smith. We're back. The next week, they go to Nashville and lose to Vanderbilt. The very next week. Now, I'd be willing to bet that was a byproduct of what Nick Saban used to call the rat poison.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't handle it. And then they thought, like, okay, look, this is the same old variant. We're going to go to Nashville. Probably, let's see that. Probably went sightseeing. They're probably walking up and down like the equivalent of O Street.
Nibbling on that rat poison.
Eating it. Vanderbilt Vanderbilt took that goalpost from one end of the Nashville to the other, threw it in the lake. And then you know what the worst part is? The pain of discipline versus the pain of the regret. The regret lasts a lifetime. That's from emotion and expectations. The pain of discipline is you're willing to do because that comes from the standard. Because it only lasts a short amount of time, but you get big time payoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where, that's just where a lot of programs are where Nebraska's at. And, you can't change your schedule. The one thing about it that's funny is that you'll hear people in the schedule is the schedule, right? I mean, it is the schedule is as hard or as easy as you make it within reason, right? If you play like Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Oregon, and, non-conference, you play, Florida State or whatever, Clemson, all them in Texas, 12 weeks in a row. Well, then obviously you got a hard schedule, but for as much as the schedule, I'll call them schedule pimping, where they just like, okay, this is how a year we're going to have based on the schedule. You'll start to see people will like, okay, well, this is the schedule. Well, you got to play who you got to play. And then we got to really try to crank up the pressure and the standard when we're going to Big Ten, because it is the difference going into conference play. They know you. They've played against you. They've scouted you. More tendencies. More is on the line. And so the standard has to be raised, week in and week out.
Still can't overlook the non-cons, though. It's tough balance.
No, but I'm just
I get what you're saying.
You gotta
you're right.
You gotta beat the brakes off of Houston Christian.
Yep.
Automatic reset by midnight that night, meaning next Saturday. 12:01, we're on to Michigan. Matter of fact, I would say after dinner.
How do you think the Clemson mindset? How do those guys fell apart? Because they come off a loss versus LSU. And, LSU, good team.
Yeah.
But I was a little surprised because
That they didn't, yeah.
Because I'm a big fan of Sweeney. I like the fact that he has been a little stiff-arming on the portal. He's kind of like the example of, we do the development. So to see him get loose, that's kind of brutal.
Yeah.
But I thought they'd be fired up, ready to go. Like, LSU got us.
Yeah, we're going to prove a point.
Yeah.
But that's not never been his MO. His MO has always been, and then one thing about Dabo Sweeney, he kind of he lost a lot of points. No, with everything he was saying from
16-0
COVID and all that other stuff.
Okay,
and then he didn't want to recruit NIL or transfer portal. Remember, he just had 2 or 3 guys. Never. One guy said he didn't even really offer me. He just kind of just was going through the motions. But then he looks a little bit smarter because here comes revenue sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And they still were already kind of paying their players that were already there. And yes, you would have thought that they would have came back with a 68-0 victory. But if you go back and check out what Dabo has done in his non-conference, so now he's really been able to not change it all, is that they play a lot of players like Nebraska did, even if it's a better non-conference team. Now, I will say this, their number one receiver that they were counting on, and when they were actually starting to move the ball against LSU, they kept him out. That's their bigger problem. I feel like they have a really good offensive line, a really good quarterback, enough running backs. They just are not their receivers aren't developed enough yet. But these next 2 weeks are going to be crucial for them.
Yeah.
To get that explosiveness, because you already know the defense can play, but the defense can only play so much. And you see the emergence of Florida State. Miami's going to play. You never know whether it's going to be another team in the ACC that'll pop up. SMU look like they're back on track. So they got to get going offensively to be able to.
SMU won that yesterday? Or Baylor pulled out. It was double OT when I last put an eye on it.
Yeah, I think they won on it, but it was they were beating the brakes off them at first, and then Baylor came back. We were here on air.
Baylor got it.
Baylor got it.
OT. It was just one OT. No, double overtime. Yeah, 48-45.
So we'll see. Yeah, it was essentially a walk-off. I did remember seeing the highlights. So anyways, we're going to take a quick break, put a bow on not only the Akron week, but Inside the Huddle. Jay Foreman will be right back.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait. Apply now.
Attention, Nebraska sports fans. Are you ready to take your skills to the next level? The Army National Guard is looking for leaders who are dedicated, driven, and ready to make a difference. Join up and gain invaluable experience while serving your country with a flexible schedule, competitive benefits, and a chance to build a strong future. Learn more at nationalguard.com/Nebraska. Live here, serve here. The Nebraska Army National Guard. Guard the good life.
Sartor Heyman Jewelers is celebrating 120 years as Lincoln's top choice for fine jewelry. Join us for our anniversary sale going on now through September 14th. Enjoy an exclusive 20 to 75% savings on dazzling diamond jewelry, exquisite rings, and luxury watches. This once-a-year event is our way of saying thank you to a community that has supported us over a century. Come enjoy our lowest prices of the year and celebrate this milestone with us now through September 14th at Sartor Heyman Jewelers.
Bagels and Joe is the best place to start off your mornings, and you can order your breakfast ahead of time on their app. You can't go wrong with one of their great bagel sandwiches or breakfast burritos. Stop by any of their 4 locations in Lincoln and their location in Seward. Bagels and Joe.
Empire Netting and Fence delivers top quality netting and fence solutions. From major sports venues to backyard installs and everything in between, coast to coast. We take on tough jobs with grit, integrity, and a strong commitment to safety. Empire is growing. And we're hiring motivated people ready to grow with us. We build each other up, and we're building something big. Think you've got what it takes? Apply now at empire-fence.com. That's empire-fence.com.
We interrupt this commercial break for an important story.
There once was a man from Nebraska who went searching for food in Alaska. When his stomach was rumbling while laying in bed, he could think of only one option, Führer's cheese spread. So he left it once and drove day and night to return back home for cheese spread delight. Now his stomach is full and the voice in his head tells him no more vacations without Führer's cheese spread. Find yours today at most local grocers.
Hey fans, there's more winning at Amigos with the VIP Game Day giveaway. Every app scan is your chance to win premium tickets to a Nebraska football, basketball, and volleyball game, along with exclusive game day perks. And when Nebraska goes to a bowl, the winner also gets 2 tickets, lodging, and airfare to the bowl game. Weekly semifinalists will win free food for a year. Go Big Red. Eat at Amigos and enter to win.
Amigos is celebrating 45 years with exclusive Nebraska Legends collectible cups featuring Tom Osborne, John Cook, and some of your favorite Huskers. For every cup sold, 50 cents goes to teammates. Show your Big Red pride by getting all 4 of these collectible cups at Amigos.
This is Tom Osborne with the Teammates Mentoring Program. We have students on the waiting list for a mentor, and we want you to join the team. Learn more about mentoring and support teammates by visiting Amigos.
Things that impair you come in many different shapes and sizes. Some are the shape of beer and liquor bottles. Others look like cigarettes but aren't cigarettes at all. These are the things we know impair us, the things our parents warned us about. What we're not always aware of is our new prescription or the over-the-counter medicine we picked up just for allergies or a bad cold. See, it doesn't just matter how much of a substance you take. If you are impaired, driving is deceptively dangerous. Don't drive impaired. Paid for by the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
NEPCO is hiring CDL drivers for ready-mixed concrete in Lincoln. With 3 plants across the city, there are plenty of opportunities to start or grow your driving career. They offer great pay, medical and retirement benefits, paid time off, and they cover the cost of CDL training. Apply today and receive a $2,500 hiring bonus. Since 1908, it's the employees that have formed the company's solid foundation. Start your career today with ready-mixed concrete. Visit nebcoinc.com. That's NEBCOINC.com.
Hi, this is Tom Osborne. Join me on September 23rd and dine at your favorite local Renza in support of Teammates Mentoring. 10% of Renza sales on September 23rd will benefit your local Teammates Mentoring chapter. Teammates Mentoring helps students reach their full potential by providing a caring adult mentor to meet with them once a week in school. Thank you for your support of Teammates Mentoring. We will see you at Runza on September 23rd.
You're listening to Inside the Huddle with Jay Foreman, sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging.
We're back. Quick segment, about 2 or 3 minutes. Jay Foreman, Inside the Huddle, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging, 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. Take care of all your imaging needs. They take care of me and continue to help me through the process to hopefully better days physically. Great team over there. Dr. Finn, Dr. Razan do an extra job with their staff. A1 service and obviously knowledge. Also, I think it's October 11th. There's their 2nd annual breast cancer awareness walk. We will be there, myself and Nick Sainer, right there at 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. It's a great opportunity to support, obviously, breast cancer awareness, and it's pretty also as much as AMI helps me with like post-football stuff, they are one of the biggest I guess advocates and do a lot of stuff for breast cancer awareness. And they do a lot of stuff with concussions, and they do a lot of stuff outside of just taking care of Jay Foreman and his plethora of lifelong injuries and stuff like that. So
how long is the walk?
I know how long I'm gonna be walking. I got about a few steps. I think it's
what about Sainer? He's young and healthy.
He needs to do it.
5K? Oh, he can do 5K.
Yeah. And it's good that we'll be there at the beginning. Obviously, we'll be there in a supportive role, but as much as they support Inside the Huddle, support us here in the ticket, and more importantly, support me in and out of the studio. You know, I definitely want to be there for the October 11th. So that is the 2nd annual breast cancer awareness walk. But back to Akron week, it's just put a bow on it, man. I mean, it's a good game, and they just need, obviously it's not to dummy it down, but it's just on to the next. And one of the big, obviously Dylan played well, Emmett played, everybody essentially, played well, and that's what you want to see. Your big name players, your star players, play well. Defensively, felt like they did a better job. They got to continue to do that.
They were who we thought they were.
Yeah, and they put the cherry on the top. Bo Lindemeyer popped the question last week. Listen, you can't get no much bigger than this. Last week you got baptized the day before the game. I think
he is expediting.
Right?
Yeah, fast track.
Right, he
right
got
now.
baptized. I was wondering if he was in the cold pool or not, because I don't know if I can get baptized at the cold pool. That bring me to
I don't know. Is that what's called for adults when you got to like fully hop into the?
I don't know. He got baptized. I saw that.
See, I don't remember mine. I was an infant. I didn't do it later in life. He's on a run.
Yeah, he
Shout
got
out
baptized
Lindenmeyer.
before the game last week, and then he got engaged after the game this week.
So what's next week? Communion, right?
I guess. What's the process? Communion?
It's communion party. I think is next week.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll never bet. The game be over by 2:30. Communion party about 6. And then you know what? You said you could invite your family to the training table. We got a great layout for you too. Anyways, man.
Congratulations
to him, man. Do your thing. Nebraska 68, Akron Zip 0. Houston Christian is next, 11 a.m. Memorial Stadium. We'll be back here next week as well. Jay Foreman, Inside the Huddle, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging, 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. We'll holler at you next week.